What goddamn year is it? It's 2021! What? We're talking about a Fallout 3 update in 2021? Yes, we are. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. And just as I said, we got a Fallout 3 news update to go through today, and it's a little bit more far-reaching than it may initially seem. So just bear with me here, because we're talking about what is a 5.4 megabyte update, which is kind of hilarious in the scheme of things. But number one, it's fascinating that Fallout 3 is being tinkered with nowadays. And of course, with that, as someone who has constantly paraded around on their channel, do something with Fallout 3 in New Vegas, resell them to us in some way, remastered. Does this mean anything for the future of the franchise? We're gonna go over all of that in today's video. So if you're new here and you're into Fallout and you're like me and you're feeling desperate and you're playing Fallout 76 again, welcome. Consider subscribing. With that, let's get into it. So Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition got a 5 megabyte update. What does it enable, or rather disable? You're gonna be kind of surprised. Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition has been updated and no longer installs Games for Windows Live dependencies. If Fallout 3 was previously installed on Steam, we suggest uninstalling and reinstalling the title. The title no longer requires Games for Windows Live and will now launch. So there's this mod that has over 1 million downloads and 3 million plus views called Games for Windows Live Disabler. If you have not been a part of the Fallout community or you never played it on PC, let me just tell you that the long story short on Games for Windows Live is it would be a constant headache. It would bar you entirely from playing Fallout 3 on PC unless you had an account for the long dissolved service of over a decade. So to see them do this now, 13 years after release, is pretty significant, but it's actually a welcome sight because this has been so long overdue. The sticky situation is because there have been so many mods built to get around this, is that those who are currently doing a modded playthrough are going to have some issues with Fallout 3 now. We'll talk about that in just a second. For those of you who are like me and attempted to circumvent this issue, there was already a way to do so. If you went over to GOG and bought the Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition over there, it would come with all of the DLC within it, and it would also have 0 Games for Windows Live. So if you've been on that launcher for some time, you already know that this has been there. But now Steam gets the GOG treatment effectively. So that's the core of the update. It's nothing crazy significant, but for people like myself who've been up to their ears in Fallout content for probably like 9 years at this point in time, yeah, this is actually a really big deal for many in the community. But how does it impact you? Well, of course, we're going to talk about remasters, re-releases, and what it means for that. But for those of you who are doing modded playthroughs, this screenshot comes from Juicehead's video he posted about it, where you can see that the Fallout script extender no longer works because the Fallout script extender is synchronized with the current version of Fallout 3. So when it got its new update, now mods that are based off script extender, which by the way, a lot of them are, no longer work. So with this update, it is a blessing and a curse. And what's kind of creepy about this is a lot of Fallout 3's modders have moved on entirely from Fallout 3, especially because it was so hard to play that no one was modding for it. If you go and look at New Vegas' modding community, it's a lot more robust. Same thing with Skyrim. These games were receiving mods constantly. Fallout 3, however, sadly, was left in the dust. And so now, for those who want to play their modded playthrough, you either have to make sure that Steam doesn't auto-update, which you have to circumvent somehow very quickly before a 5 megabyte update downloads, or just hope that the script extender gets updated. When will it get updated? Well, I went to the website for Fallout Script Extender, and here's the post that they made. October 12th, 2021 update. Bethesda has released an update labeled 1.7.0.4 on Steam. This does two things: removes Games for Windows Live and updates the compiler to VS 2019. I do not have a time frame for when Fallout Script Extender can be updated to this new version. So it seems like they're at least tinkering with it a little bit, but we don't know when. So if you're doing a modded playthrough, best of luck to you. But what this has brought about is a conversation of the door's open now, Bethesda, and people are asking for more. What is more? Again, it really comes down to basic functionality. It's why I'm stunned they haven't done anything with Fallout 3 or New Vegas, because listen to some of the things that I've been reading today and across the internet for months and years that people want. Here, get this, Steam achievements. Yeah, crazy, right? People want Steam achievements. This would be something that'd be nice to add to Fallout 3 after all of these years. A more significant one, because even though Fallout 3 can now launch, its other issue is it has a ton of problems running on modern PCs, which is why I tell people all the time, I want a Fallout 3 remaster or a special edition of some kind just to stabilize the damn product for such a timeless, important RPG, especially in Bethesda's history. You have to wonder why it isn't running any better for modern PCs. There's actually a multi-core fix out there. This problem boils down to the cores in your PC. If you have a quad-core processor, or really any processor with more than 2 cores, the engine in general for Fallout 3 and New Vegas has issues with this, and it leads to a large majority of crashing. So what you'll see here on screen is a walkthrough to go into your ini file for Fallout to adjust things to make sure that you can actually run Fallout without it crashing. So these two things are some of the most widely requested PC features: basic stability and achievements. That's why I'm just like, yo, Bethesda, if you added like 3 quests, people would shit their collective pants. The other way you could get Fallout 3 running is through Tale of Two Wastelands, but some people have had issues managing that because you have to manage not 1 but 2 games. But that's still another way to circumvent all of these issues with stability. Now we get into the question as to why, because I've been getting it so much that I was like, okay, we'll just add that on to the rest of the video. Why are they doing this? Does it mean anything? More importantly, that's what we're going to talk about. So what I did first and foremost was a pretty nostalgic dive here and went into SteamDB. If you've been around this channel for probably the last 3 years, you'll remember back in 2018, there was a lot of tinkering around on SteamDB and people were overanalyzing the messing around of files on the back end for Bethesda on various games, specifically Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and it had to do with music licenses and why certain things are being removed and tweaked, and people thought that Bethesda was renewing something for, again, a re-release. And so now if you go in there, you can see Fallout 4 has been mostly dormant for a number of months. You can also see that Fallout New Vegas received some slight tinkering recently when it came to store tags, but otherwise, it really hasn't had anything happen. In the last 4 months, they removed the strategy guide, which is a piece of DLC for it. But again, nothing significant. Meanwhile, with Fallout 3, especially in the month of September, it continuously had updates, tinkering happening on the back end. My read of this is to get Fallout 3 in a state where it's as competitive on Steam as it is on GOG. I think that's just the boring truth of it all. I poked around, asked sources, couldn't get anything else beyond that. That is my assumption on the matter. I feel this could also be the start of movement on the back end for Fallout 3 on PC, because if you look at this Reddit post here where someone was very upset with Fallout 3 for Game Pass PC, it's actually a 43 gigabyte download because it downloads 5 localized directories of the game in German, English, French, Italian, and Spanish. So again, it just goes to say, as I've been saying for years, that Fallout 3 on PC is bad. And it needs work, because a lot of people tell me, as Fallout enthusiasts, and I understand where they're coming from because a lot of us are hardcore. They'll tell me, Matty, you download this, it's fixed. You tweak this file, it's fixed. You do this, it's fixed. It's like, no. The idea here is you should be able to purchase a game, click play, and it plays. That's all there is to it. I hope that this is the start of that. Does this indicate a remaster, a remake, a re-release? I do not think so. What I do think this is going to do is little baby steps forward. I think we're going to see Steam achievements eventually. That seems like an obvious one. But the only thing that constantly is scratching at me is the timing. It has been 13 years. This Windows Live gaming BS has been dead for a decade. Why now? Why? After all this time, why now? What is Bethesda's priority? Did they just have someone who is like an intern and they said, oh, here's a good way to familiarize you with our backend? Try fixing Fallout 3. I don't know how any of that works. But I just thought it was very fascinating, number one. Number two, I knew for my OG community, who we built this channel off of Fallout strictly, they'd find this awesome. And number three, I think there is room to discuss, hey, what's going on beyond this? It's right now on PC Game Pass. It's on console Game Pass, so I don't think it's movement for that in particular. The only little conspiracy theory I can toss out there is we have Xbox's anniversary coming up. I feel like they're going to do a lot of backwards compatible stuff to celebrate. I have not heard that from sources. It just seems to be the rumbling amongst the community. So I'm wondering if Fallout 3 could be participating in that. That would be cool to see. But I think it is just the boring simplicity of, yeah, Fallout 3 got a 5 megabyte update. You can actually play it on PC now. Fun times. So that's all I've got for you in today's video. Always fun to sit down, talk about Fallout 3. Crazy it's getting an update. But anyway, it's been great diving back in. Looking forward to your thoughts on this in the comments down below, and certainly all the memes that will pop out from it. I would not be surprised. So with that, I'll talk with all of you very soon. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.